Hello, my name is Alan McDougall. I'm the head baseball coach at Colleyville Heritage High School in Colleyville, Texas. And I'm honored that Brian Cain asked me to come talk to you guys about pillar number one, elite mindset, and how we use elite mindset to help our Panthers be the best they can be on and off the field. I want to start out by defining these couple of words. We've got elite mindset. Elite, Webster says, is the best of a class. Where mindset, Webster says, that is a mental attitude or inclination. So as we put that together, we are trying to be the best of a class when it comes to attitude. In athletics, we kind of have two frames of mind here. One says things are going really good, and when things are going really good, I think it's good to have, or easier to have, a great mindset, feeling really good about what we're doing and how we're going to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish. The challenge, however, is when it's on the other side of the coin, when things aren't going as planned, when we are not seeing the ball as well, when we're not throwing strikes from a baseball perspective. What do we do then? And I think that's what separates the average and the good, and it's what separates the good and the great. Who deals with adversity the best? I don't know about your athletes, but mine seem to think that an elite mindset is kind of like a light switch. They have the ability to flip that thing on when they need it. So when they walk into the field for a competition, they're going to go flip on their switch, and they're going to be able to perform at the best of their ability that evening. You know what? They're right. It is the flip of a switch. However, to be great, that switch never goes off. It starts when you wake up in the morning, and it continues as you walk into a classroom, and then it continues as you walk onto the field to compete for practice or in a competition. How they do anything is how you do everything is a thing that Brian Cain loves to say to us, and he's right. How I get up in the morning and the routine that I've developed on being really good once I get up and making my bed, or how I've developed a routine on walking into a classroom and sitting in an area where I can be a participant and not a spectator, that affects positively or negatively how I'm going to compete on the field, on the baseball diamond during a practice or during a game. It doesn't change. Kids want to be able to flip that switch on when they want it, and that's just not the reality of competitive athletics. I like to think that we teach mindset to our guys in four ways. After you figure out what you truly want, keep at it, and keep at it relentlessly, regardless of setbacks. I want you to watch this scene from Rocky 2 and see what Apollo's trainer thinks of Apollo's next opponent, which is Rocky.
He's all wrong for us, baby. I saw you beat that man like I never saw no man get beat before, and the man kept coming after you. We don't need that kind of man in our life.
Angela Duckworth also talks about this topic in her book, Grit, which defines grit as passion plus the perseverance that you see in Rocky and that we hopefully will see in our athletes. Second, be humble. A humble person has a quiet confidence but is always realistic about their strengths and their weaknesses. Practice humility, and this creates internal motivation. You seek to improve you and for you, and not for some external gratification. I think some people refer to this as a competitive fire. Next, be vulnerable. Now, vulnerability is probably not a word you would associate with an elite mindset, but vulnerable people leave themselves open, and they see two types of people in the world. They know that there's winners and that there's learners. Not losers, but learners. They don't beat themselves up, and they see challenges as opportunities for growth. We all have and will have challenges that we face as we move towards our goals. But the best at dealing with this, as Pete Carroll might say, use these challenges to fertilize their seed of potential. Vulnerable people are not afraid to fail. They're also not afraid to share those failures with others. They realize that they learn more from their failures than from their successes. Lastly, we want no regrets. How many times have you competed at something and wished that you had done more? For many, this happens in most everything that they do. We ask our guys to ask themselves a question continually. Am I satisfied that I did everything that I was willing to do to achieve my goal? If they can answer that positively, then man, they've hit it out of the park, so to speak. Regret is a powerful and it's a destructive human emotion. I truly want my players to fear regret and run from it. Our core values of Panther baseball are represented by the acronym DUDES. D, dedication. U, uncommon. D, discipline. E, energy and effort. And S, selflessness. As we push for an elite mindset concerning this, just in recap of what we've talked about, or we want them to pursue this relentlessly, keep at it. We want them to be humble. We want them to be vulnerable and not being afraid of being vulnerable. And we want them to have no regrets at all costs. We feel that with this elite mindset, pushing our core values, our guys will be dudes in the classroom, in our society, and on the baseball field. I think one of the things I was wondering as I was putting all this stuff together to present is, why is elite mindset the first pillar of the 12 pillars of success? And I haven't talked to Brian about this, and honestly I have no clue, so this is Alec McDougall's opinion, and that in 5 cents might get you a piece of gum. But my opinion on why elite mindset is number one is it is personal. It is the foundational stage of what it takes to be successful. I have to know that I want something, and I have to pursue that relentlessly, and that comes with this elite mindset. And what Brian offers through his digital training program or other training programs that he's put together are ways to develop your mental capacity to push towards a goal. It's not enough just to want it. It's, how do I take that into everyday life, and how do I put those wants into everything that I do? I think once kids and coaches and all of us that are listening to figure out that, again, I'm going to repeat what I said earlier in the presentation, how you do anything is how you do everything. I think all of this stuff can kind of come together once you figure out that you've got to throw in 110% in making your bed, 110% in filling your gas tank, 110% in preparing for an educational lesson if you're a teacher, 110% in preparing for a practice if you're a coach, and then you instill that in your athletes and let them know that when they make a shortcoming on an academic end or a social end, that reflects on what they're going to do on the baseball field. And then on the flip side, I think this is the hardest part for us, because it's so easy to point out the negatives. When we see someone doing what is right, and we see someone taking the extra effort to be great at what they do in everything they do, we've got to point that out not only to them, but to their peers. And I think that's a powerful lesson to teach to our athletes. All right, wrapping this up, I know when I leave a convention, I've got information overload, and I'm looking for how can I condense this and take 2 or 3 things back from what I've heard. If an elite mindset is personal, how do we make this personal for our kids? I know one of the things that Brian encouraged me to do this fall with our Panthers is to go through some books, have a book study. I'm going, man, we don't have time for that. Well, through the Philosopher's Notes, you do have time. And Brian Johnson does an awesome job of condensing books into about a 20-minute audio in which he gives 5, 6, 7 key points from that book. What that's done for me, it's kind of opened my eyes and seeing that I don't have to be selfish. I don't have to be the one that gives personal information to my kids. I just have to be the one that exposes them to great information. What I might think is good that I would deliver personally, my kids might not gravitate towards. But if we expose them to different theories and different points from different people from different walks, I think we got a really good chance of something sticking. So they may hear about the self-affirmation theory that Amy Cuddy talks about in Presence. They may hear about Arete, which Pete Carroll and Win Forever, and it means competing at everything. Lenny Basham, in his book With Winning in Mind, is an Olympic level shooter, and he talks about how to deal with failure, and that is when things are good, that's me, and when things are not as good as they need to be, needs work. So that's an easy way to look at something that could be really negative and take a little bit of the sting off the negativity. What we're trying to do is to build a collective great team, and what we need to see is that comes from building each individual and making each individual better, and then collectively that team does become better. Because like James Kerr says in the book Legacy, better people make better All Blacks. Well, better people in my position make better Panthers, and that's what we're after. We're just trying to give kids the biggest opportunity, the most exposure, and then hopefully that something sticks, and once it sticks, they run with it and it's a life-changing event. In closing, thank you for your time. I'm humbled and honored Brian thought enough of me to let me share a little bit of time with you about training an elite mindset. Good luck, dominate the day.